I think with the strap.
The strap struck her in the face,
the
I believe.
strap struck her in the face. So he didn't like conquer with the big, computer or anything like that.
Right.
He just the strap kind of smacked.
And then I started kicking her.
Today we are going to talk about pointless anger.
Oh, you mean the kind you have all the time at me?
My anger always has a point. So this episode, kind of a funny story to share. This episode was kind of inspired by, I think that's a good word, inspired by incident we had on an airplane recently. And, there's been all kinds of like conflict and different things going on over the last, year or so with all the COVID mask mandates and people who think you should wear a mask, people who don't want to have to wear a mask, and just all the different opinions. And I know that on flights in particular, it's been, a huge point of conflict.
People are testy.
They are. So this actually happened a few months ago when Thomas and I were traveling to Idaho, up to where, my kids live, and we were going to see all the grandbabies and stuff. And we got on the plane, and it was a plane that had two aisles, one on each side, 2 rows, I should say, or two
rows of seat in one center aisle.
And a center aisle. Thank you very much for that. And there were 2 seats on each aisle. So 2 seats on the right side, 2 seats on the left side with a center aisle. So Thomas and I get on the plane, and I climbed into my seat, and I usually sit next to the window. And he had the big, heavy backpack on.
And the dog.
I had the dog, yeah. She travels with us a lot of times. And Thomas had the big, heavy backpack on that had all our computers and our all our work stuff that we need to travel with. And there was a lady sitting on the aisle of the right-hand side. So Thomas and I were sitting to the left, and there was a lady on the end on the aisle. And when Thomas turned to put the backpack up in the shelf, he accidentally hit her, I think with the strap.
The strap struck her in the face, I believe.
The strap struck her in the face. So he didn't like conquer with the big, computer or anything like that.
Right.
He just the strap kind of smacked.
And then I started kicking her.
No, you didn't. No. And when he realized it, he stopped and he turned around and he said, "Did I just hit you with that?" And she said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I beg your pardon." Now, that was his exact words. He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I beg your pardon." And he puts the backpack on up into the shelf and sits down. And so then, and it's been a while, so I don't know if I'll get the exact sequence of events correctly.
Right.
But,
so she's sitting there fuming.
Right. So she's angry. This person is angry already over the thing.
And I'm sitting there watching my surf contest on my phone.
Yeah. And she's like glaring. She's glaring at both of us. She's just giving us the evil eye and just glaring. And then Thomas had his guitar with us. And so,
wait, no, something else happened first. I looked over, kind of, and she said something like, "Yeah, I'm looking at you."
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at you.
I'm looking at you.
And it's almost, she had so much anger that it was almost funny. Like you couldn't, it was all we could do to keep from laughing because it was so, her level of anger was just so out of proportion to what had happened, and the fact that it was an accident. So anyway, she tells Thomas, "Oh yeah, I'm looking at you." So then the a flight attendant comes on the overhead and says, "Hey, we have a guitar out here. We're not sure who it belongs to. If you brought a guitar on with you, please ring your overhead thing." So we rang the overhead button because we had a guitar with us, and I think the tag had gotten torn off somehow or whatever. So the guy comes walking back and he says, "Oh, is it a black case, soft case, whatever?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he walks away, and then Thomas looked at me and he goes, "Well, it's not a soft case. It's like it's not a gig bag. It's like it's a formed case." And so we were having this discussion about did the guy saying soft case mean like like it's not, knock on it hard like vinyl or whatever, or did he mean a gig bag, or did he mean and Thomas is like, what if it's not my guitar? And so I said, well, why don't you just go on up there? Just go on up there, and that way you can see it sitting there in the entryway or whatever. And he gets up and he starts walking up there, and she hollers and says, yeah, go on up there so you can hit somebody else. And I was just like, I didn't even know how to react to this person in a lot of ways, So Thomas is walking on up there. I don't even know at this point if he had heard her or not. I didn't know, which he had, I think. But so he goes up to the front and he's having this discussion. And I turned and I looked at her and I said, it was an accident. And he already apologized and told you that he was sorry. And she kind of crossed her arms and she goes, oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like that, as if Thomas's apology was just totally absurd and, couldn't be sincere. Right. And then, of course, Thomas comes back to his seat and she continues to glare at us through the whole flight. And, the whole flight is just kind of uncomfortable. And Thomas and I are trying to, ignore it and be the bigger person and do all the things that we always tell you guys to do. You need to do in your divorce. We're doing the same thing. So toward the end of the flight, our little dog, she does a little thing where she is irritated in her crate and she like, and she kind of chases her tail around. And she made this little noise and the lady goes, that sounds like a dog. And I looked at her and I said, oh, yeah, that's our dog. She's at my feet. So when I had gotten into my seat, the dog was in a crate and I guess she just didn't realize that it was an animal. So she looks over at the guy sitting next to her who was just another traveler. It wasn't anybody she was with. And she goes, oh, it's the guy who hit me's dog.
Yeah. The guy who battered me, beat me mercilessly.
So our poor little Kayla is now the dog of the guy who hit her.
Yeah.
And, she was just so angry through the whole thing. And it, like I said, it was to the point where it's almost comical.
It was. And we, in fact, we're telling the story now because it's
funny.
Well,
and I was trying to keep, and I mean, Thomas is very much a smart aleck, if you guys haven't figured that out from watching the podcast or listening to the podcast, But so he constantly wanted to make jokes. So he kept like leaning over to me and making jokes that would cause me to laugh. And I'm trying not to laugh because this lady's so upset and I don't want her to think we're laughing at her.
Because angry people don't like it when the people they're angry with laugh.
Are having a good time, yeah. And so I'm trying to hold it in and he keeps making jokes and I'm going, stop it. You can do this when we're off the plane. Shut up. You need to be quiet. You can tell the jokes when we're away from her. And she was so angry the whole time. And when we got off the plane, we started talking about this and we started talking about, relaying this in a podcast because her anger was so, first of all, just unwarranted in my opinion, because it was a total accident. And it was almost like she was, when I said to her it was an accident and she was like, oh yeah, right. It was almost like, what? So my husband got on the plane and thought, oh, look at this lady sitting here. I really don't like her. I think I'll move the backpack in a way that causes the strap to slap her in the face.
Right.
Like to even think that there was any intention on your part when we don't know this person, we've never seen this person, we don't know anything about this person. What motivation would we possibly have?
Right. Well, some people just think the whole world kind of revolves around them.
Right.
And so they're looking to take offense. Sometimes I think my son sees the world that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that guy over there is
out to get
me.
Right.
What? He's just sitting there.
In the sunshine, enjoying his day.
Well, he looked at me. He looked at me kind of like, you're just. And I knew he was thinking about me. And I knew he was going through his backpack and he probably had a knife in there.
Now we've got Dalton laughing in the background. So. I think knowing the kid that we're talking about helps. But
he's a good boy. He is.
Yeah,
but
he is. But he definitely, I mean, you said it when he was very young. This, they talk about rose-colored glasses. Well, Thomas said this kid sees the world through poop-colored glasses. Like he's getting better as he gets older. But when he was young, it was really hard.
Yeah.
But that's kind of with this lady. It's like the anger was so pointless and she was so upset. And it's like, I mean, I understand initially like being upset and you got whacked in the face and it's kind of like, it probably hurt and oh my goodness. And, but once the other person apologizes or whatever, I probably would have been trying to like, make small talk with that person or make some kind of connection to where they knew it was okay and I wasn't upset or, whatever. And it's like all she wanted to do was, I mean, she sat there with her arms crossed, glaring at us for at least half the trip, at least.
Right. And who's hurt by that, really?
Well,
it's not Mr. Joke Guy.
I was like, apparently not us because we're getting a lot of laugh out of it. And we got a lot of laugh out of it at the time that it happened, too. It's
like, I mean, my reaction is look at that person completely miserable about somebody she doesn't even know because she's so mad.
I know. And the way that this relates is that, her anger is destroying her. She didn't hurt me or Thomas by being, I mean, she was a little annoying, I guess, which is what she was trying to do. But she didn't really hurt me or
But
Thomas
the story was worth it.
You do it again?
Yeah, having the story to tell is worth it.
Yeah. For us, but, she didn't, excuse me, I'm sorry. Her anger was so like palpable. You say to yourself, this person can't be this upset over this thing. There had to be, she has to be angry over many other things in her life to have this level over something so
Maybe
small.
she was on her way to a funeral.
I don't know. I'm sure we would have known if.
Right.
Because she talked really loud the whole flight about she was going to visit
She's
family.
Drama queen.
She was going to visit her children or whatever she was doing. But I think she talked really loud for our benefit. But as if I cared what she was going to do. But anyway, so when you're angry, when we say pointless anger, like this kind of comes into play with divorce, is what it made us think of. Is when we were dealing with this woman on the plane. I mean, I think one of the reasons that Thomas and I could sort of, find humor in it and not get, terribly offended or whatever, is because that's kind of what we do all day, right? We're dealing with people who are very angry and are often in a very negative place, and they're often venting that anger onto us. Although it's not personal, it's not about us, it's not about me, it's not about Thomas. It's about what that person's going through, and you're the person that's, within the range right now of their crosshairs, and so you're the one that's getting the hit.
You just happen to be walking in their field of fire.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we deal with that a lot, but it's really sad because what happens is that person is the person that's suffering, not us. And on the plane, that woman was the person that was suffering, not me or Thomas.
Right. Yeah.
And that's very normal in the very beginning. I mean, I went through that too. I was very angry in the beginning. You were too. Like, we've all been through that. And so that's kind of a normal part of the divorce process. And so when we first talk to somebody and they're that way, we totally expect that and understand and try to have sympathy around it. But what I always say is you don't want to live there.
Yeah. Yeah. You really don't.
What happens, here's what happens, is if you, like I said, we all usually start there in the beginning, right? Yeah. To an extent. Right. But your goal needs to be to try to move on from that. Because if you aren't moving on from that anger and you're staying stuck in it, then you're destroying yourself. You're not helping your case. You're not helping your kids. You're not experiencing any happiness.
Right.
And I find that people who are bound and determined to stay stuck in their anger in that way are very difficult to coach.
Right.
They're very difficult to coach because
they're unteachable.
They argue with you on everything of why they can't do
right.
ABC.
You don't know my ex.
Right.
You don't know. I mean, he's different from all the other narcissists you know.
Right. He's different from the other 873 narcissists that I've known. This, whatever. I don't know,
yeah.
know the number. I'm just throwing out a number. But yeah, it's like I've seen this movie hundreds and hundreds of times. I've lived my own version of it. Like, you know, that's letting them win.
Right.
If they've destroyed you to the point where you are a bitter, angry person
who's willing to run across the country in a wedding dress.
That was the last episode you talked about that. And you can't carry your stories over.
Well, but maybe they're listening again this week.
Well, let's hope.
Yeah.
But
well, they must be if they
understand the joke.
No, if they're actually hearing my voice.
Well, that's true.
Because that doesn't guarantee that they heard the last time.
Week. Right. Depends on when they found us, right? So if you want to know about the wedding dress and you don't know the story about the wedding dress, go back to the last episode and listen to it. But anyway.
It's there on Spotify and
Stitcher and iTunes and Anyway. He thinks he's funny. This is what I live with.
Yes.
But you know what happens is that person keeps you stuck in that bitter, angry state and they've won.
Right.
You know, if they can keep you there and keep you from being happy and living your life, you know, what's the comment, the best revenge is living well.
Right. And your judge is sitting there too thinking, I couldn't live with this person either.
Right.
Because they're bitter and angry.
Right. They're angry all the time.
Right.
Right. So no wonder this other person thinks they're a pain in the butt. So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it hurts your credibility in court.
Right.
The root of it comes from that pain, and healing that pain and moving through it is the way to resolve the anger, you know? And right. So like for me, you know, if you've listened to the podcast for any length of time, you know that I lost my mother about 8 years ago, very suddenly due to a heart attack. And, her birthday is at the end of March, and every year that's a problem for me. And I've had years where it's the entire month. I've had years where it's only a couple days. This year it seemed to be for about a week or so. And I get very snappy and very short with Thomas. And he's like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And then it suddenly dawns on me, oh, it's almost my mom's birthday. And it's like this, the only way I knew how to describe it to him is like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be harsh towards you. It's just that I can't, if I soften up, I will fall apart because I'm dealing with the grief. So the only way that I can find the strength to be able to deal with the grief is to not let the soft side of my emotions come through. And I think that, you know, that's obviously a protection mechanism. And so I think that that's what we do a lot of times in divorce too, is we're so hurt and this has been so difficult. But if you can find anger towards that person.
You have a soft side.
That's so not nice. That is so not nice. But if you can, you know, tap into your anger, it helps you to, you know, toughen up. And I can remember my mom saying to me during the divorce, every time you start feeling soft, like you want to go back to him, you think of all the rotten things he did. Like you make a list and you know, because my ex-husband had 3 affairs. So it was like, my mom's like, you're done. Like this, you've given chance after chance after chance. You have to stand up for yourself at some point. So, you know, and again, you don't want to live there. You don't want to hold on to that. But that anger was useful to me for a time. Anyway, that'll do it for us. Thank you for joining us. We hope this was a helpful discussion on anger. You know, if you need help, please get therapy, coaching, learn how to deal with the other person's anger. There are definitely tools and techniques that will help with that. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so that you get notified as new videos come out. If you're listening to us on the podcast, also, don't forget to review the episode and subscribe so that you are notified when new episodes are released each week. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.